It's a gamble that we're just going to have to take. We'll fire back up when the sun decides that it's summertime and make the best use of everybody that we free up.
Parker Schnabel just gambled his entire season on a cursed Klondike mine and hit an $82 million jackpot that will go down in gold rush history. This is the story of how he did it. But forget everything you think you know about gold mining. We're revealing the unbelievable laser technology that let him find a secret path into the earth.
It's a huge accomplishment, you know, and it took everybody here. I just really want to thank you guys for the effort that you've put out.
The moment he struck gold, a powerful, unseen rival launched their attack. Their goal wasn't just to steal the motherlode, but to make sure Parker ended up in prison. The frozen death trap. You see, some places are just plain off limits. They're spoken about in hushed tones, carrying names that sound like warnings. These are the grounds that have bankrupted miners, shattered equipment, and broken the toughest crews. The Widow's Cut was one of those places. It was a collapsed mine shaft so notoriously dangerous, so famously unforgiving, that trying to work it was considered a fool's errand. And it's funny when you think about it, this wasn't just superstition. The place was a geological nightmare. The biggest problem was the permafrost. Now we're not just talking about some frozen dirt. This is ground that has been frozen as hard as concrete for thousands of years, a solid, icy mass hundreds of feet deep. Any attempt to dig into it carried the constant, terrifying risk of multi-ton chunks of frozen earth and rock suddenly breaking loose, ready to crush anything or anyone below in an instant.
It's called permafrost for a reason, right? Because it's permanently frozen.
I mean, it would help us a lot if it was more than like 35 degrees for at least like 4 hours.
We need some warm weather, trying to keep up with stripping and sluicing at the same time.
And that's the problem, is that we're using a lot of our manpower right now to just try to keep the plant fed.
If that wasn't scary enough, the threat of a catastrophic flood was always present. A hidden underground spring or a bit of meltwater could turn the entire operation into a watery grave in seconds, swallowing millions of dollars of heavy machinery. It was a place where one tiny mistake could end not just your season, but your life. But here's the thing about Parker Schnabel. He sees things differently. While most miners saw the Widow's Cut and saw guaranteed failure, Parker looked at it and saw the single biggest opportunity of his entire career. That's just how he's wired. Ever since he was a kid learning the ropes from his legendary grandfather, John Schnabel, Parker has been a high-stakes gambler. He's always pushed for more land, bigger machines, and more gold than anyone thought was sane.
This waft plant, it's got a lot more sluice run width, and so that's what should increase our yardage and help us get through all of the pay here at Dominion and the money pit that we have to do. It's a bit of a gamble going with something that's untested late in the season, but we'll roll those dice.
While his rivals like Tony Beats rely on decades of old-school instinct, Parker combines that Klondike grit with a relentless, youthful ambition. He wasn't just aiming for a good season, he was chasing a 7,000-ounce goal, a number so huge it would cement his status as the undisputed king of the Klondike. For Parker, seeing a place like the Widow's Cut, feared by everyone else, wasn't a warning sign. Truth be told, it was a wide-open invitation. His logic was simple. If nobody else had the guts to tackle it, then every single ounce of gold down there was his for the taking. It was a massive bet-the-farm kind of risk. He was putting his entire operation, his crew's livelihood, and his reputation on the line for a geological time bomb.
It's a gamble that we're just going to have to take. We'll fire back up when the sun decides that it's summertime and make the best use of everybody that we free up.
But Parker was about to prove that the biggest risks really do come with the biggest rewards. And to do it, he had a secret weapon that the old-timers could never have even dreamed of. Faced with an impossible challenge, Parker decided to fight smarter, not just harder. Instead of launching a brute force war against the permafrost with dozers and excavators, he brought in the tech-savvy big guns, eyes in the sky. Parker and his team unleashed a state-of-the-art LiDAR system, a piece of technology that is completely revolutionizing the modern mining game. LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, does something that feels like actual magic. A drone equipped with a LiDAR unit fires millions of laser pulses. We're talking up to 2 million pulses per second down at the ground. These pulses bounce back and the system measures the time it takes for each one to return, creating an unbelievably precise three-dimensional map of the terrain. By pairing this laser technology with advanced drone mapping, they could fly over every single inch of the forbidding landscape. This combination gave them a superpower. They could digitally see right through the thick trees and dense undergrowth, mapping out the hidden contours of the Earth in a way that was previously impossible. It was a game-changing advantage. While other crews were stuck drilling test holes and basically guessing, Parker's team was building a perfect digital model of the Widow's Cut. They were looking for a weakness, a hidden path, a secret way into the treasure chest. And then, as the data poured in, they found something that had been lost for decades, a ghost from the past that would change everything. The richest vein in a century. The breakthrough the lasers provided was stunning. Hidden under a century of tangled wilderness and debris, the LiDAR map revealed a perfectly straight man-made anomaly. It was a collapsed vertical shaft, a forgotten relic from the original mining operation over 100 years ago, completely invisible to the naked eye. You gotta be kidding me. There it was, clear as day on the computer screen. Their precise measurement showed it was over 40 meters deep. That's more than 130 feet straight down into the darkness. This was it. This was their secret entrance. Instead of the insane task of trying to dig a whole new ramp, which would have been a costly, dangerous, and time-consuming battle against the permafrost, they could use this existing shaft left by miners long gone.
We're in a situation where there's a ton of work and unrealistic expectations from a boss that likes to have unrealistic expectations.
The plan was terrifyingly brilliant. The crew immediately got to work hauling in massive reinforced steel beams to stabilize the crumbling walls of the old shaft. It was slow, nerve-wracking work. Every scrape of the excavator bucket against the rock echoed in the dangerous silence, a constant reminder of what could go wrong. With Parker's expert crew leading the charge, they managed to build a safe enough pathway down into the heart of the mine. After weeks of frustration and battling the elements, they finally had a direct line to the prize. But no one, not even a seasoned optimist like Parker, was prepared for what was waiting for them at the bottom. The moment the crew's excavators reached the bottom of that stabilized shaft, they knew. They had hit the motherlode. What they found was absolutely breathtaking. An untouched, quartz-rich gold vein glittering in the beams of their lights. It wasn't just gold dust mixed in with dirt. This was a thick, concentrated ribbon of pure gold woven into the quartz rock. It was so pure, so pristine, that Parker's on-site geologist said it was the cleanest and richest natural deposit he had ever seen in his entire career. He estimated that the gold concentration in some parts of the vein was thousands of times higher than typical Klondike pay dirt. There was absolutely no time to waste. The team knew that whispers of a discovery this big could attract claim jumpers or unwanted attention, so they got to work with a frantic, desperate energy. They worked around the clock, 24/7, fueled by pure adrenaline and the unbelievable sight of all that gold. And here's where the story gets absolutely wild. In just 72 hours, 3 days of non-stop backbreaking labor, they managed to extract and process more than 4,000 ounces of gold. When they did the math at the current market price, that single incredible cleanup was worth over $10 million. Think about that. In one weekend, they had made enough money to cover their entire season's costs. The fuel, the wages, the equipment rentals, everything. The gamble had paid off in the biggest way imaginable.
It's a huge accomplishment, you know, and it took everybody here. I just really want to thank you guys for the effort that you've put out.
The crew was ecstatic and the relief was overwhelming. They had conquered the Widow's Cut, but as the team celebrated their massive win, the geologist was quietly running some more numbers, looking at the bigger picture revealed by the LiDAR scans. What he was about to tell Parker would make that incredible $10 million score seem like nothing more than a tiny taste of the true treasure lurking deeper in the earth. When a jackpot becomes a target. That $10 million haul was a complete game changer, but the team's geologist had even more shocking news. After examining the geology of the massive quartz vein and cross-referencing it with the LiDAR data, he realized it was far larger than anyone had imagined. It didn't just stop in their little chamber at the bottom of the shaft. Heck no. It extended further underground, a lot further. After some quick calculations based on the vein's incredible thickness and its projected length from the laser maps, the team figured out that it stretched for another 2 kilometers. That's about 1.25 miles of solid, gold-rich quartz. This is where the numbers get truly insane, the kind of numbers that sound made up. Taking into account the jaw-dropping richness of the gold they had already pulled out, they ran the projections on the full 2-kilometer vein. The potential value was staggering, another $75 million. Added to what they already had, Parker was sitting on a claim worth over $82 million.
It's nice to finally be on some ground and be finding some gold and have a good crew. A lot's gone into this, and it's really cool to see it working out.
If they could pull this off, it wouldn't just be a successful season. It would be the single most successful season in the entire history of Gold Rush. It would shatter every record and make Parker Schnabel a living legend. This was the kind of find that miners spend their whole lives dreaming about, the story they tell their grandkids. But with a discovery this big, Parker knew instinctively that his biggest fight was just beginning. It's a simple rule in the Klondike. You can't keep a $75 million secret. Word of Parker's monumental strike at the Widow's Cut got out fast, spreading through the gold fields like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was talking. Rival miners, curious locals, and even government inspectors were buzzing about what Parker had found. The pressure was on, but Parker, always thinking one step ahead, had already made sure the claim was legally his, locked down tighter than a bank vault. No one was getting a piece of this score if he could help it. For Parker, this was more than just a lucky strike. This was validation. It was proof for all the years of hard work, the massive risks, and the personal sacrifices he had made. The whispers started flying all over the Yukon. Had Parker Schnabel really just pulled off the biggest gold strike of the 21st century? Had he single-handedly rewritten the rules of the game with his bold embrace of technology? At the end of the day, this wasn't just about gold anymore. It was about power. Parker had just become the most important man in the Yukon, and with that title came a whole new set of dangers. The discovery sent ripples across the entire Klondike. Land prices in the surrounding area could skyrocket overnight. New, inexperienced miners might flood the area, hoping to get lucky themselves, creating chaos. Suddenly, the weight on Parker's young shoulders became immense. With a $75 million prize sitting right under his feet, everyone was watching his every move.
For me, the big driver of this is really trying to find the next spot to bring a big operation in. It is about showing that, okay, there's, another 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever 1,000 ounces to do here.
He had found the treasure, but now he had to protect his kingdom. The fame and fortune were one thing, but as the news spread, a darker side of success began to emerge, with shadows moving in the background, ready to challenge his claim and turn his dream into a legal and personal nightmare. The curse of the crown. The ink on the assay reports had barely dried when the trouble began. It started as whispers in the saloons of Dawson City, but quickly escalated to viral posts on social media. The most outrageous claim was that Parker had been secretly sentenced to life in prison for made-up environmental crimes at the widow's cut. It was a baseless lie, of course, a piece of digital fiction likely cooked up by a jealous rival. But in the hyper-competitive world of gold mining, a lie can do more damage than a broken-down dozer. The rumor forced Parker to spend precious time and money on lawyers and public relations, a new kind of warfare he was totally unprepared for. Then the attacks became more sophisticated. A shell corporation with ties to a shadowy international consortium filed a lawsuit challenging the legality of his claim. They produced a series of forged, century-old documents that on the surface seemed to give them a legitimate claim to the land. Parker, who had always settled disputes with a handshake or a shouting match, now found himself tangled in a web of legal maneuvering that threatened to bleed him dry. It's funny when you think about it. We see the gold weigh-ins on TV and imagine it's all celebration and high fives. But is it really that simple? Do you think a guy just finds $82 million and life becomes a party overnight?
Thank you for getting this done. Really means a lot. Like, it's a huge amount of ground, a huge amount of logistics that we're not used to dealing with that you guys fought through.
The reality is, finding the treasure might be the easy part. The moment that gold comes out of the ground, you become a target. Every decision you make is questioned. Every person you know might suddenly have their hand out. Parker was no longer just a miner, he was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar enterprise under constant attack. The pressure started to get to him. He started to doubt himself. Every comment from his team sounded like an insult. Every shadow looked like a trap. The more he tried to hold it all together, the more it felt like it was all falling apart. The gold from the widow's cut had made Parker a legend, but deep down he knew a terrifying truth. The treasure that had made him a king had also built him a prison. He found the treasure, but the battle for his kingdom has just begun. Is it possible that the biggest curse in the Klondike isn't a dangerous mine, but the gold itself? Let us know your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.